coming in. Like we've got all these things to do. And so if we look to what your idea is, even though it's a brilliant idea, now it slows down all those other things. And slowing down, like I said, could end up pushing it out 5 to 10 days. Well, when the business first started and you're only making a couple $100 a day at most, that's not a big deal. It's whatever, so what if something gets moved out 4 or 5 days or 10 days? It's not big. But as the business grows and we scale and this thing becomes larger, days turns into huge numbers. And so you have to look at every idea that you want to do within your business with a different attitude than what we had when we first started. So that is my greatest challenge right now, is not running out of great ideas or direction where we're going, but is staying very myopically focused in one piece of the business and driving that home, completing that project, and then agreeing to move on to the next project.
Yeah, and you don't want to like rush anything so the quality goes down because you're trying to fit more stuff in and you guys don't give as much time to your original idea. So you kind of gotta, it's a sketchy line between, keeping all the good quality and doing too much probably.
Right. And sometimes what will happen is we all agree on a project or something that we need to accomplish. And maybe halfway through it, right? It's a project that's going to take us 30 days to complete worth of content and videoing and shit that goes into it. And maybe 10, 15 days into it, somebody else comes up with a different idea, but it's actually potentially even a better idea. But it's something that has nothing to do with what we're doing. It's really tough to say no to that, especially when we all agree, like, fuck, that's a brilliant idea. You're right. That will probably generate more revenue. That's probably better for the business. But here we are in the middle of this other project. So learning to say no to things, even if they are brilliant, they are great, because you've agreed as a team that, hey, we're going to execute on this project. We're going to finish this project. We're going to see it through. And then after we see it through, we're going to unpack it and we're going to break down all the analytics on it and say, was this profitable not only for the business, but also for our time? Because that's the other thing that becomes very valuable for us is, the time spent. Every time we give up an hour here or there, that's an hour we could have been putting towards some other project. So, let's at least finish it and then let's evaluate it. And that way we have something to compare when we decide we're going to do this next project. And then we can find out which one is really better instead of speculating all the time. Like, dude, this is how we're going to do this. This is the way I want to do this. That's the greatest challenge that we have right now.
Yeah, see, this is all the stuff that's super fascinating to me because the podcast part seems pretty easy if you can, have a good conversation with somebody. But all the back end stuff, like the business and behind the scenes on
right.
That's what I'm like. I'm diving deep into all the business stuff because, I've worked on a golf course my entire life, so I have no idea how to start my own business or like even where to start. So I'm trying to like piece all these pieces of the puzzle together. But I already started the easy part, so now I got to learn how to do all this back end stuff to make what I want to do work right and like make the whole machine turn.
Right. And honestly, when we talked about this just the other day, we're all walking together and saying like, because we're building this thing too with the ability to be able to kind of step back from it and not have to be the brand. Like you see a lot of people build their brand around their name and who they are. And that was one of the things that we all agreed on when we first started. Like none of us wanted to attach this to ourselves and to where it had to be us, which is why you saw, and I don't know, if you've been around long enough, you've seen kind of the evolution of even the website, and it's being evolved again. It's going on its third phase now. And part of that is to really transition us away from that. Like we look at the podcast as a separate entity, our email list as a separate entity. We look at the YouTube channel as a separate entity, and then we have our Facebook advertising and marketing as a separate entity. And each one of those to us are separate businesses, even though they all fall under the umbrella of Mind Pump Media, but they all are their own business, and we keep them kind of separated. Like, although they all kind of speak to each other and they overlap, but they all are individual, and we have different people that are managing and running each piece to that. And the podcasting piece, that's the part we all love. Like this is therapeutic for me. Sitting down and talking to you on the mic, like this isn't work to me. I'm a talker anyways. I enjoy good conversation with intelligent people. So for us, this piece is really therapeutic, and I don't see us ever stopping doing that. So again, this is the easy part. This is the easiest part of what we do, is getting on and just talking back and forth with each other and having conversation. The hardest part is, how do you monetize that? And then how do you build it to be sustainable so it's an actual business and it's not just we're making money off our audience really quick. So that's been, it's been fun though. I love business. I love learning. I love challenges. Like Katrina always tries to remind me when I get home, I come frustrated. I'll come home, want to pull my hair out, like so frustrated and like all of us going different directions. I'm like, I feel like we didn't get anything accomplished today.
Oh man.
Or this is so hard. This is so challenging. And she'll just kind of smile at me and she goes like, would you want it any other way? And I kind of laugh, for a minute there, I'll be frustrated. Then I'll kind of laugh back at her. I'm like, you're so right. Like if this was easy and I thought anybody could just come in and do it better, I wouldn't be drawn to it. I'm drawn to it because it is challenging and because it is frustrating and because it is not easy. And so I love that. And so I always got to remind myself to be mindful of that process and learn to enjoy the process, even when I'm angry and frustrated or challenged, because that's what makes it so rewarding when you accomplish or you finish products, is because fuck, it was hard, man. And if it was easy and just anybody go do it, then it's not as rewarding to accomplish it,
Yeah, well, I used to play competitive golf, and like I could go out and play really good golf anytime when there wasn't anything on the line. But when you care about something and you get all those nerves going and everything, every fiber in your body wants you to succeed in what you're doing, it like amplifies everything. So it's interesting on the stuff that I learned playing golf. Now I'm applying it to this. And it's just like, I even dabbled with like, if you guys had to cancel, like, would I be okay with that? Like all these emotions. And I'm like, dude, it's just because you give a fuck about this and you want this to work out.
Right.
So
do you still golf? Do you follow golf?
Oh yeah. Masters are on this week, dude. I'm fucking amped.
Bro, did you hear about what's with Bud Light and Masters and Dilly Dilly?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Get the fuck out of here! Okay? So I'm not even a golf fan, but I was listening to I don't even remember what I was listening to where I heard this. I just thought it was hilarious. So have you seen the Bud Light commercials, the Dilly Dilly commercials?
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole Dilly Dilly thing's really popular. Well, the Masters has a list of words that the audience can't use, or they'll be fined, or they'll get thrown off the course. Right.
So, okay.
And one of the phrases that you will get thrown off the Masters is if you do a dilly dilly in the background. So if the guys get ready to do a putt and you're like dilly dilly, they'll kick you off. So Bud Light finds out about this, and Bud Light releases just 2,000 shirts to so supposedly there should be guys or people walking around that have shirts that say dilly dilly.
Oh, that's
so
great.
Yeah, I thought that was great advertising. That was a great response from Bud Light, and I thought that was hilarious that was something that the Masters would not allow, is dilly dilly.
Yeah, but to answer your original question, I do still play golf, and I am a golf course superintendent or assistant superintendent, so I'm, that's my day job. I get up every morning at 5 o'clock and go to the golf course, and, I'm the one in charge of mowing all the grass and, keeping it up, and so I'm around it a lot still.
Where are you located at?
I'm down in Paso Robles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shit, you were just down there.
I was the one that sent you the restaurant recommendations.
Oh, that was you who sent me that restaurant Oh, okay. No wonder you knew all the spots down there.
I'm like, man, I want to hang out with these guys so bad. So it was funny.
Yeah, that was, man, we stayed at a beautiful place down there. That was a great time. That was a really good time. We go down that way all the time. So now that I know that, and boy, I tell you what, if I tell Taylor that you got the hookup at the golf course over there, that's his jam. So.
Oh yeah, we can get him out there for sure.
Okay, maybe we'll come down and hit some balls for a little bit. I got all the greatest clubs, but I can't. I'm terrible, man.
Yeah, dude, golf's a fucking hard sport. It's not like everyone chalks it up to be an easy sport, but I put hours and hours into that, and I still can't perfect it. I'll
argue with anybody that tells me it is an easy sport. I am a athlete for sure. There's very few sports. Actually, I can't think of any sport that I've not been able to pick up a ball and within a few weeks be able to at least play it and hang with average decent people in that sport. I love all sports. Golf is the one sport that has frustrated me like no other sport. I mean, I got my two best friends are diehard golfers, and I got one, and they were bugging me they're giving me a hard time because they were going out to golf every week, and I just wasn't hanging out with them because that's all they were doing. And finally, I'm like, man, if I ever want to see my best friends again, I better learn how to play golf. So I went out I bought all the gear, signed myself up for some lessons, started doing the range 3 days a week. I was getting pretty good, man. Like at least on the range. At the range, I started getting comfortable where I could hit the ball straight. I could kind of control my irons a little bit, having a good idea of how far I could hit each one of my irons. So I was like, I'm ready to play some golf now. But then I'd go out on the course, and everything I felt like I had learned or how good I was at the driving range, gone. Like back to being terrible again. And I did that, I don't know how many times, probably 15, 20 times. And I was just like, man, I don't know if, and what it was where I was at in my life, which is, I picked this up later in my 30s, was like, I don't know if I have the patience and the time right now to get good at the sport. And I'm so damn competitive that I was like, I gotta either let it go or just be okay with getting the shit kicked out of me. And I just don't like the shit getting kicked out of me, dude.
Nobody likes getting the shit kicked out of them, but the
right?
time one is the big one. I haven't been playing lately because I've been, trying to focus on this and put enough time into doing all the stuff that I'm trying to learn how to do with the podcast thing. But I've suffered from back injuries. That's how I kind of found you guys, and like trying to fix and heal my body from, because it's all turning one way. And I played golf from the time I was probably 12 to later in my 21. So I played every day, just turning the same way. And now I suffer from, just total, I wouldn't know the technical term. You'd know it, but
you're imbalanced right now. Everything is dominant to turn one direction. And so the other side is basically shut off, and the other side, and then your dominant side is super strong and probably throwing you off on any sort of exercises that you do. Your body's always naturally going to go towards the side that's stronger and more dominant. And when we exercise like a squat or overhead press, well, the way the brain thinks is like, all it thinks is get this weight over my head or keep this weight from scrunching me, right? So all I got to do, so your dominant strong side is going to take a majority of the load. Even if you can't feel it and notice it, it will, because that's the neurological patterns that you've patterned for so many years. So then you go and you do a movement like a squat, like a deadlift, like an overhead press, which are all great movements, but because you're so dominant on one side and you're so well connected to one side, but then not the other, that when you go to do a movement that requires all of your muscles to work synergistically together, they get all of a sudden the ones that are strong from golf and dominant, they take over a movement when you need the other side and the other half to really keep you balanced. And so what ends up happening is that you just either perpetuate the problem, or you start to get, aches and pains that start bothering you because you're tight on one side and you're what we call overactive or underactive,
Yeah, well, my dominant side's my right side, and that's my tight side, because when you swing, I'm opening up to the left. So my left side, it has a lot more flexibility in it from stretching out. And
right.
Then my right side is like glued, like my hip and my glute on my right side is just a nightmare to try to unlock that whole thing before I work out. And it's just been giving me hell for the last 4 years to try to make my back and my body feel 100% all the time.
Do you have Prime Pro yet?
I haven't bought it yet.
Oh, dude. Well, remind me when we get off this call. I'll hook you up. I'll send it over to you, because you should go through that, because that addresses every major joint in the body. And it should just be something that you start to do before you go even play golf, or definitely before you lift. And you could, and what I tell people is, go through all the, because it comes with a test, right? So you're kind of doing these tests on each joint, and you'll know right away, like, which areas are the worst. And then I tell people, go from the worst and work your way back as far as the areas that you need to address, and pick 2 or 3 to focus on at a time. For me, it was a lot of my ankle mobility and a lot of my hip mobility. And so most of my priming that I do before I lift has a lot to do with that. And it's been a game changer, man. The last 2 years after we created, it's so funny, like, even as trainers and having all the knowledge that we have, until, we're the best at teaching others, but even really bad at ourselves. Like, we need to collect ourselves. Like, I know that what I should be doing, and then I don't do it until I hurt. And then it's like, oh, fuck, I need to go apply myself and do this. And it took me about a year or so of really applying all my mobility drills and my priming, and man, it's made a world of a difference. And so I'll shoot that over to you when we get off this, for sure.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I bought Kelly Starrett's book, Becoming a Supple Leopard. So I've been trying to work through some mobility stuff just to I'm more of like try to figure it out on my own. And then if I need to purchase something, I'll resort to